Okay. Morning. Today we're going to start Nun Amid Aleph, 50a on towards the top. Start with Leia Krivu Kevis Babaker. It's 50a. Nun Amid Aleph. Do we thank Hashem that they're able to learn Torah every day?
Amen.
It's because of our learning, we should have the base of English.
Amen. Now.
So we learned in the Mishnah that if they didn't bring the kevis in the morning, so then they would bring it in the afternoon. Except there was a difference over there between two things. It says if they didn't bring in the morning, they would bring in the afternoon. Reb Shimon says, when would they bring in the afternoon? That's only if they were anusim or shaygigim. But if it was unpreventable. But if it was intentional, then they can't bring it in the afternoon. And then he goes on to say that if they didn't bring the ketores in the morning, you can bring it in the afternoon. Reb Shimon says, no, you could bring it in the afternoon. Shimon says you have to bring the entire thing in the afternoon, not even the morning part you have to bring in the afternoon. Then it goes on to say that she'ein mechanchem es mizbeach hazav b'keter sasamen. The only time that you do chinuch, the only time you inaugurate the golden altar is with the afternoon one. And the mizbeach ha'ila you do with the morning sacrifice. So it says, you would have to bring the entire incense, the whole day's incense in the afternoon, the ketores in the afternoon. And then he goes on to say, because you only inaugurate the altar with the afternoon one. Where it says, who mentioned inauguration of it? We weren't talking about inauguration. We're talking about that you missed bringing the sacrifice. Where it says, we're actually missing a few words. We have to add in a few words to make this make sense. And this is what it wants to teach. If you didn't bring the carbon tamid, the daily offering, if you didn't bring it in the morning, you don't bring it in the afternoon. That would only be that's only if this is the first time offering using this altar. So then you can't use it for the first time in the afternoon. You have to use it the first time in the morning. But if the altar was already inaugurated, it's not the first time. So then yakrivu bein arbaim, then you can actually bring it in the afternoon without bringing it in the morning. Okay. Amar Reb Shimon. Shimon says, when do we say that you can bring it in the afternoon? That's only if it was unpreventable. But if it was intentional where they missed it, then you don't bring in the afternoon either. You didn't bring the incense in the morning, then that you could do in the afternoon. How do we know that the inauguration of the outer altar is not in the afternoon? It's only in the morning, the Tana Rabbanan. We learned in a brayso. It says, the second lamb you bring in the afternoon. What does that mean? That means the second one you bring in the afternoon, but not the first one. That means that the inauguration, the way you start this, it has to be started in the morning. When do we say this? That's only if this is the first time the altar is being used. But if the altar was already in session, we're using this, then afilu rishon ben arbayim, then, but you just missed the morning sacrifice for whatever reason, so then you could bring it in the afternoon. They had a big fabrang the night before. Everyone woke up late, they bring it the next day. Amar Reb Shimon. That's only if it was unpreventable. But if it was intentional, then but however, if the incense wasn't brought in the morning, that's not a problem. That you could bring in the afternoon. And Reb Shimon says, but you bring everything in the afternoon, you bring the whole thing. The next piece of the Mishnah,
we say
that if you didn't bring, it's an opinion that chazak is twice, like this Rebbe and his father. Right. Very interesting. Yeah, Hillel made a good comparison. But the same thing applies to davening, that if you missed one, then you can make it up. See, it's not a perfect comparison, but but that's only if it wasn't intentional. If it was intentional, you can't make it up. It's only if it was unpreventable. You fell asleep or something like that. But you see here that we're talking about not bringing both in the afternoon. We're not talking about bringing both sacrifices in the afternoon. We're talking about bringing even one sacrifice in the afternoon. Right? The we said you will bring both the morning part and the. But here I think we're only talking about just bringing the afternoon one. Kavas Hasheni, only the second one. Yeah. Okay, the Gemara says that if you didn't bring it in the morning, then you don't bring it in the afternoon, right? According to, was that Reb Shimon's view? Oh, in Le'yakrivu. Okay, so Gemara says, "B'chikayanim chatu mizbeach batal." The Kayanim did a sin. Now the Mizbeach has to suffer. Mizbeach doesn't have any food that day. You leave the Mizbeach without anything. Amarabba hachikamar. La yakrivu hein, aval achirim yakrivu. These Kayanim can't bring it. But other Kayanim can come and bring the afternoon sacrifice. What would be other Kayanim? Must mean from another family, from another day or something. This day's Kayanim, the Kainim families were divided in 24 groups. And then every group was divided into 7 or 6 days or 7 days. So this day would have to forego that sacrifice because they didn't bring it in the morning. If they didn't bring the kteris in the morning, that's not a problem. That they could bring in the afternoon. Since this was not a frequent thing, this was not common that they should miss the kteris, and also uma'atra, it also makes wealthy. See other sacrifices like the carbon tamid was an oila. Oila could be a common sacrifice. Uma'atra, and it also makes, but the kteris makes you wealthy. Then chavivalu v'lei pashi. Then it was very uncommon for people to miss out on a segula to get wealthy. So therefore, they didn't have to make a decree that if you forget it in the morning, you can't bring it in the afternoon. Okay, Amar Rab Shimon. Shimon says, "You bring it all in the afternoon, the whole k'tairas. If you miss the k'tairas in the morning, you bring the morning and the afternoon k'tairas in the afternoon." He says because the inauguration of the Mizbeach Hazav is done in the afternoon. V'tanya, and it was taught in a brisa. V'k'tairas hasamim shel shachar. V'hatanya b'k'tairas hasamim shel shachar. This is a question. But we learned in a brisa that the inauguration of the Mizbeach is done in the morning. The Gemara answers, so that's an easy one to answer. Tanai, it's a machlaikas Tanaim. Okay, we have a contradiction. We answer it by saying it's a machlaikas. Amar Abaya says, "Mistaber command Amar b'kter sam shel ben arbaim." It's probable that the correct opinion is that we inaugurate the Mizbeach, the altar, the golden altar, with the afternoon incense. The ksiv. That in the morning, when they clean out the menorah, that's when you will bring the ketores. How do they clean out the menorah if they didn't light it the previous night? So it must be that the menorah was lit the previous night, and the ketores was also brought the previous night. And in the morning, when they're cleaning it out, so that means that it was done in the afternoon or in the evening. What does he say? According to the other opinion that says that we inaugurate the mizbeach with the morning ketores, but I thought it goes together with cleaning out the menorah. Obviously, there was activity at night. It says Gamar mi mizbeach. He learns it from the other mizbeach. Just like the outer altar was done with the morning sacrifice, because we said the second one was brought in the afternoon, right? So it means it had to be one brought in the morning. So the inner altar as well, the golden altar was also done with the morning incense. And we're talking about how do we inaugurate a new mizbeach? And when do we inaugurate the shulchan? How do we do that? By putting the bread on it on Shabbos. That's how the first use of the shulchan would be a new batch of bread on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, "El b'chol no, you're talking about the inauguration. You have to do the inauguration of a new table, and we're dedicating a new table. That would be on Shabbos. But in the weekday, you don't dedicate a table. But the bread would still be holy. Bread is only on Shabbos. So gufa kamash. So the Gemara answers, he gufa kamash. No, this is what it's coming to teach me. The chinuch, the kiddush, the shulchan b'Shabbos, that both the consecration of the bread and the inauguration of the table takes place on Shabbos. Okay, the Ktani Seifa, as it says in the Seifa, v'loi es ha-menorah b'shivnei yoser ben arbayim. It says that how do you inaugurate the new menorah? You do it by lighting the 7 candles in the afternoon. Just like the menorah is only in the afternoon, you light it in the afternoon. That's when the main time, lighting the menorah. Right? In the morning, they would just clean it out and maybe have 2 candles lit. But in the afternoon, they would light all the candles. So in the mizbeach. I'm sorry, not the mizbeach. The shulchan was also done on Shabbos. So just like the menorah, the inauguration and the proper lighting of the candles would be in its time, so too the inauguration and the consecration of the bread, proper use of the shulchan would only be on Shabbos. Tan Rabbanan, Tan in the Brisa. Zeu k'teires she'olsa liyachid al mizbeach hachitzin. This brisa starts off in the middle. At least the quote that we have. This is the ketores that was brought for an individual on the mizbeach hachitzin. It was a special. What's the word that they use for Rasha? What is it?
Special ruling.
Special ruling. Special ruling. I thought there would be a fancy word. Yeah, a special ruling that was done. It was only like a one-time thing that the outer altar had a private ketores on it.
Oh, what a big donor.
Yeah, it was a big donor. So the Gemara asks, Heicha, what do you mean zehu ketores? This is the ketores. When did that happen? Rav Papa says B'Nesiyim, that was the princes. When they brought it, yeah, you're right. It was a big donor. Princes, when they brought the kaf achas, asarazov, ketores, brought the spoonful of ketores. What did they do with that ketores? It wasn't brought on the inner altar. It was brought on the outer altar.
Mercedes.
Yeah. Provisional. Provisional edict.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Edict.
Provisional edict. Rasha. Provisional edict. So,
Tana Rhode Island.
Rasha. Okay. Ella Yachid al Mizbeach Chitzon Udallah Yahal Mizbeach Rimi Makriv. What are you telling me? You're telling me that when an individual brings a sacrifice, he brings it. He would have to bring it on the inner altar, right? When he brings ketayis, that's what it sounds like. It says this was the only time that the individual was able to bring on the outer altar. It sounds like on the inner altar you could bring it whenever you want. Almost makriv, you could bring it on the inner altar. It's not true. The inner altar was meant only for the designated ketayis. You can't just bring a voluntary donation ketayis. V'su almost be'achitzin yachiru d'lai hatziva makriv, and it also sounds like that an individual, there was only one time when he could bring it on the outer altar, but the community could always bring it on the altar. That's also not true. You never bring the ketayis on the outer altar. Excuse me. V'atanya, we have a brisa that says yachol yachin misnadav maybe kietziba nedava. Maybe I could think that maybe an individual can bring a donation ketayis. And I would include it in the verse that says that a person should keep the what he utters with his mouth. Means if he takes a vow to bring ketayis, maybe he should bring it. Talmud Laimar, so the pasuk says, "Leisalo alav ketayis zara." You're not allowed to bring a foreign ketayis onto the altar, even if it's a donation, right? You can't bring a donation. Yachal lo yehi yachin maybe but maybe an individual can't bring a voluntary ketayis because he doesn't have any obligation either to bring it. However, the tzibur, aval tzibur yehi maybe a community is allowed to bring a voluntary one because they bring a obligatory one. And if you can bring an obligatory one, then you can also volunteer one. So Talmud Leimer Leisalo. It says Leisalo, and Leisalo is a plural. It means they should not bring up plural. Yachal layalo al mizbeach apnimi aval yalo al mizbeach chitzin. Maybe that's only referring to the inner altar where you're not allowed to bring up a voluntary sacrifice. But on the outer altar, maybe you can bring up a voluntary incense sacrifice. Talmud Laimar, es shemen hamishcha v'skter sesamim l'kodesh v'chol asher tzivisicha yasu. The anointing oil in the keter sesamim for the holies, in the keteris, the incense, for all that I've commanded to you, they should do. She'ein lecha ella masha amar be'inyan. You're only allowed to do exactly what was commanded. There is no voluntary sacrifices here, voluntary incense offerings. So, let's go back. How did we get into this? We were asking, it sounds like from the brisa that on the outer altar an individual can't bring, but on the inner altar he can bring. And it sounds like on the outer altar the community could bring, right? It sounds like, it sounds, yeah. So each one, we said this is a specific sacrifice that an individual was able to bring on the outer altar. It sounds like on the inner altar they could bring, and it sounds like the community could bring on the outer. And now we're seeing from the brisa that it's not true. So that was our question. Rav Papa explains, "Laimi bay kama." No, you didn't read it correctly. It's saying not only this, Laimi bay, not only Tibar al Mizbeach Chitzin Blayashkachan, not only the outer altar. We don't find the community ever brings incense on the outer altar. And not only on the inner altar that an individual doesn't bring. We never find that. But even on the outer altar, where you do find that there was a time when an individual was able to bring a ketayis on the outer altar, but you should know that that was just a provisional edict, and you never have that anywhere else. No, we know that an individual can't bring on the inner altar. We know that the community can't bring on the outer altar. But an individual on the outer altar, which we found once, that also you can't do, because that was just a provisional edict. Russia. Okay, a new topic. Chavite pein gadol lo yabayin chatzayin. I have to open the pasuk over here so you'll know what's going on. It says, Where's the pasuk? 6:13. I guess that's a way to remember it. 6:13.
Oh, wow. Great way to remember. That's 16.
Yeah.
You gotta tie it to Vayikra.
Yeah. Okay. Pasuk says like this: meal offering of the priests. Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, "This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they should offer to God on the day when one of them is anointed and initiated into service, 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour. The high priest must bring such a meal offering too daily. Half of it is offered in the morning, half of it is offered in the evening." Let's go a drop further. Should be made in a shallow pan with oil. Should be brought after being scalded with boiling water, like a bagel, right? It is thus baked many times, scalded with water, baked in the oven, then fried in a pan. You should offer it as a meal offering of broken pieces by folding it repeatedly, a pleasant aroma to God. Is this a wafer? Minchas pitim. Tifune minchas pitim. Yeah, I guess it could be called a, what is tufine? Tufine. It says on a pan, mervekes, boiled, tufine minchas pitim. I guess tufine means baked, right?
I know Jeff makes great things.
Okay, you ready? Mishnah says like this: Chavite kayin gadol loy hayabayin chatzayin. We learned that you bring half in the morning, half in the afternoon, but nevertheless, it wasn't brought to the temple. Bring half in the morning, then you call up your home. Can you bring the other half in the afternoon? Because I forgot half of it. That's not how it works. You bring everything in the morning, and then you divide it in half. You offered half in the morning, half in the afternoon, but it was brought. The whole thing was brought in the morning. It was all ready in the morning. Kain gadol. Kayin shemevi mechza b'shachris umes. Let's say the Kain Gadol, he does his morning offering, and then he dies. He passes away.
Dies? Wow. That's so sad.
Aminu Kayin acher tachta. They appoint another Kayin already in the afternoon, immediately. Layavi chatzi yisrayin mi beisay v'chatzi yisrayin shel rishon. You don't just bring a half an isarin, the half for the afternoon, which just new Kayin needs to do. Maybe Yisar Shalom, you have to bring actually an entire Yisar and a full day's worth. And v'chaytzeyo, when you divide it in half, makriv mechza, it's the afternoon already, so you only bring half in the afternoon. But mechza avar, and the second part gets lost. Nimtzu shnei chatzayim kraven comes out. There were two halves that were brought. Shnei chatzayim avdim. There were two halves that were gone to waste. The kayin that passed away, half of it goes to waste. And then the kayin that came in the afternoon, half of it goes to waste because he only brought the second half. The first half he didn't bring in the morning. He only showed up in the afternoon. Okay. Taner Rabbanan. Taner Rabbanan. It was taught in the Brisa. Ilu nemar mincha machzis. It would be called a mincha machzis. What do we actually call it? Mincha tamid machzisa ba'bayka machzis. If it would say mincha machzis, mincha have half. You say maybe chatzi yisan mi beisi b'shachos ha'makriv, chatzi yisan mi beisi b'arvis ha'makriv. I would have thought that you bring half in the morning and half of yisan in the morning, half of yisan in the afternoon. But no, it says Talmud Laima machzisa b'bayka machzisa ma'erev. It says half of it is in the morning, half is in the afternoon. That mechza mishalim hu makriv. That you bring half of a whole one. You don't just bring it in. You don't just bring the half. You bring the whole one, and then you offer half. Half in the morning, half in the afternoon. Okay, tzad. Well, how does this work? Maybe Yisrael Shalom b'chitzay. You bring the full Yisrael. Yisrael is a measurement. Was it 53? No, 43 eggs. 43 and a third or something. 43 and a fifth eggs. That's an isarin. Is that what it says? Oh, 43 and a fifth, I think. So, in isarin in the morning, and you bring an isarin in the morning, and then you divide it in half. Bring half in the morning and half in the afternoon. Nitma mechza shel bein arbayim. Oisha avad. Let's say you lose the afternoon portion because you brought only half in the morning, which is what you're supposed to do in the afternoon. It became tameh, or you lost it. Yachol yabi chatzisar mebeis arbes v'yakriv. Maybe just get another half, and that will be fine. And bring it. Talmud Laimar machtzisa v'abayka machtzisa v'erev. It says no, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. Mechza mishalamu maybe. You have to bring half of a whole one, and if the half of it got ruined, you can't just bring a random half from somewhere. You have to have a whole one and bring half of it. Okay, son. Yeah. They can just prepare half. Right. Okay, so how do you do this? Maybe Isarin Shalimi Besa. You bring the full Isarin from the house. You divide it in half and then you offer it half. And half of it is going to be destroyed. Comes out that on that day there were two isarin that were brought. One isarin was offered, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. One in the isarin was offered. That's referring to the half in the morning, half in the afternoon. Other isarin was lost. The half of the afternoon from the morning one and the half of the morning one from the afternoon one, that is destroyed. Kayin gadol sheikh.
Did it say how is destroyed?
That we're going to see soon. A question if you have to leave it overnight, if you can just destroy it right away. We'll see. Kohen Gadol shekriv mechza b'shachris umeis. Let's say the Kohen Gadol offered his morning offering, and then he died. And then they appointed another Kohen. Maybe the new Kohen can get away with this first day. He'll get away cheap. He'll just bring a half of the afternoon. Maybe he could get away even cheaper. He doesn't have to bring one in the afternoon. He'll bring the morning Kohen's leftovers. Talmud Laimar, machtzisa be'erev. Certain things you're not supposed to take from the deceased, like the shoes. You know that. Like you don't take, but they do take clothing.
Not shoes.
Not shoes. They do take clothing. Right. So, Talmud Laimar, machtzisa be'erev says, and half of it this afternoon. You can't use the morning ones. He has to bring a half of a whole one that he brings. Okay, it said, maybe Isarin Shalom v'Cheitzei brings a full Isarin and he divides it in half. Makriv mechza, makriv, he offers it. Mechza avad, and half of it gets destroyed. Nimtza shnei chatzayim ma'avdim, shnei chatzayim krivim means two halves are brought and two halves are destroyed. Tani Tana Kamei de Rav Nachman. There was a Tana, which is a name for an Amira. Tana usually means an author of a Mishnah, but when the Gemara talks about a Tana, it's referring to someone that memorized brises, and he would announce them in front of the Amira, and the Amira would explain it. So he probably doesn't know the explanation for it. He just had a good memory, so he memorized it, and then he was like the university library, just in his head. So he had memorized it, and then the sage would explain it. Naftali's not on. Tani Tana Kamei de Rav Nachman. So this Tana teaches in front of Rav Nachman. He says, Mechza Rishon, the half of the first Kayan that's remaining, Umechza Sheni, and the half of the second Kayan that was also not offered, because there's two halves here that weren't used, to Uber Tzurasan. Uber Tzurasan, it was an expression, means that you let its form change, you let its form get ruined. What do they say over there? Appearance becomes changed, and then, which means that you leave it overnight. That's how you destroy it. And then you go ahead and burn it. So anything that's left overnight in the temple becomes invalid, and then you go ahead and burn it. Amalei Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman challenges this Tana. He says, Bishleim Marisha, I get it. Why the first one you have to leave it overnight? Because Echse Lakrava, it was fit. It was eligible to be offered. So it actually was consecrated. Ella Sheni Lamalei Betura. But the second one, when it was brought, you knew already originally when you were bringing the second one that it was never going to be used. So Mikara, Sheni Lamali Betura. Why do you have to wait till it stays overnight? Mikara because you brought it lechatchila knowing that it's not going to ever be used, so you could burn it right away. When he answers, Damalachmani says, who's the Tana of this? He says Tana debei Rabba Baravuhu. This is the opinion of the house of Rabba Baravuh, which is interesting. That's Reb Nachman's father-in-law. The Amar that he says, Afilu pigol ton ibertura, that even pigol, which is very invalid, but nevertheless you don't just burn it right away. Pigol is the thoughts that it was to offer sacrifice out of, or to eat it out of the allotted time. It's very, very invalid, very no good. So yeah, it's based on the verse. It says half of it, machzisa, half of it. And what's the it? Means the whole one. Mechza shela, machzisa is mechza shela, half of it, half of her, half of it. So what does it mean? Half of it means that you have to have the whole one, and you take half of it. That's what. So Ravashi, that's the opinion of Rabba Baravua, who holds that everything needs to be you don't let anything get burnt on the day. You always have to wait till it gets totally invalid by staying overnight. Even pigol has to stay overnight. Ravashi Amar Afilu Teima Rabbani. You don't have to say it's the opinion of Rabba Baravua. Could actually be those that argue on Rabba Baravua that say that you should be able to burn it right away. But Kivan the Bidna the Palgibu. You could say like this: when you divided it, you know that one half is not going to be used. I know, but which half? Could have been this, it could have been that. So since each one had an eligibility at one moment, because you could have used this one, you could have used this half. Which half? That means that because of that eligibility, you can't just burn it right away. You have to wait till it becomes invalid. That potential makes it that slight consecration. That means that you have to wait for it. Okay, the next Gemara. Well, actually, the first part of this is easy. Then we're gonna get into this like just a bunch of opinions. Yeah, let's see if that's the issue. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what we're really discussing over here is that you don't just burn kachim. It has to become invalid. You can't just destroy it. Something has to go wrong with it. So what went wrong with it already? Well, we're not going to use it. Yeah, but it didn't become invalid. So you have to wait for it to become invalid to actually burn it. Otherwise, it's considered like a disgrace. Once it's invalid, so how do we make it? Let it get invalid? You wait till it's overnight. Okay, Yitzmar. We have a statement of Amirayim, which usually means it's a machlekes. It says Chavite kain gadol ketzad. How do they make this offering of the kain gadol? The mincha. It's called chavite. How do they translate chavite? You can see over here. You don't translate it in our school. You put it in italics instead. Chavite. Griddle cake. Griddle cake. Griddle cake offering. Pancakes, right? So where are we holding? Chavite. Where does it say? Itzmar. Kate Tzadison. How do they do it? How do they make this griddle cake? Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan, Oifavacher Metagna. He says Rabbi Chia bar Abba, which says the name of Rabbi Yochanan. He was a famous student of Rabbi Yochanan, right? He learned every 30 days. He chasered everything that Rabbi Yochanan taught him. He says, Aleichem. He says that first you bake it. After you bake it, then you fry it, because it says over here al machavas, brought on a machavas is a frying pan, but it also says tufune, that it's baked. Now, we didn't say about the merbekas. Merbekas means that it was boiled, but whatever the case is, first it's baked and then it's fried.
First it's baked, then it's fried.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
First it's fried.
Rabasi Amar Rab Chanina. Rabasi says in Rab Chanina exactly the opposite. First you fry it and then you bake it. So we have a machlekes here. What's first in the way that this is done in the in the recipe? Besides for giving you the ingredients, they also tell you heat the fry pan for 3 minutes. Like they give you pour in the thing and wait till it's whatever. So in this, right? So in this, there's a machlekes, two opinions over here. One is Rabasi and Rab Chanina, one's Rab Chia bar Abba. Do you bake it first? Do you fry it first? I'm Rab Chia bar Abba. Kavasedi di mistabra. Rab Chia bar Abba says, my opinion's more logical, that first you bake it and then you fry it, because it says tufine. And the word tufine means teyafena noah. You bake it nice. Noah means nice. That means at the time that you bake it, it looks nice. It looks like a nice dough. If you would have fried it first, then it would have been already darkened by the frying. It wouldn't look so pretty after it's fried. Rabasi says exactly the opposite. Kavasedi dimastabra. Mine is much more logical, because it says tufine teyafena noah. Now it's interesting here. The word noah means pretty, but noah means par baked, par cooked. Like sechol mimenu noah, by the Korban Pesach. Don't eat it partially cooked. You have to eat it. You can't eat it raw, or partially cooked, right? So tufine is a compound word. Teyafena na. You should bake it when it's partially cooked, which means after it's already fried. Teyafena na, after it's fried. That's the machlekes. Is it tufine? Does it mean teyafena noah? Teyafena na, without the noah. Okay. Was this eaten? No, I think this was just burnt, because it's a minchas kayin that was mincha v'kayin is only burnt. You never eat it. So there's a lot of effort goes in just to burn it, right? A lot of.
You could probably
eat it. They could have a contest.
replicate it at home.
Right, the challenge. My brother won the challenge comp.
Are you serious?
Not the first place, second place.
Wow.
Which brother?
Yitzhak.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah.
Like David out helped.
No, that's Yuri. Okay. I asked him for the recipe.
Oh, I'm sure.
Someone said, "Oh, did he share the cash?" I said, "Well, I asked him for the recipe." Okay. So, machlekes Reb Chia bar Abba and Rabasi regarding how this mincha is made is kitanoi. It's actually machlekes earlier machlekes. It says like this: Tufine teafena noah. Tufine means teafena noah. Rebbe Yomer teafena noah. Teafena noah means that you bake it when it's already par cooked, which means after it's fried. And Rebbe says that you bake it when it's pretty. Rabbi Yossi Yomer teafena rabba. You bake it many times. How did he get the rabba out of tufine? But because islay noah, the islay noah, he holds both. He says that you bake it when it's par cooked. That means after it's fried, and you also bake it when it's pretty. So you bake it beforehand. That means you bake it, you fry it, and you bake it again. Yeah, that would be a nightmare for the ladies in the kitchen. Have to do this so many activities for one thing. Right? So it's baked. If it's baked, it would be become hamaitzi. And even if it's fried after it's baked, if it still retains the tzura sapas, still looks like bread. It still is hamaitzi. Bagels are boiled, and we make hamaitzi on bagels, right? So that's and French toast, you make hamaitzi on. Yeah, it still looks like bread. Looks like bread. Make hamaitzi on. Matzah brai. You take the matzah and you put the then. Some people make mezainas on because it already changes at the form. Gets crumbled and things. They told us the Rabbi Shachat in Los Angeles said to make mezainas on the matzah bread. At least the one that they made in yeshiva then. Maybe there's different types. Okay. Tanan Hassam. Learned in the Mishnah. You have to get ready for this. This is going to be one of these Gemaras that I'm going to go a little further because we're not starting on time, right? Because you can't put on the tefillin yet because of the clock change. So Tanan Hassam, we learned in the Mishnah, it says like this. The kneading it, the arranging it, it's like the braiding it, the arranging it, and the baking it is all done in the Azara. And V'deicha says Shabbos, and it also, you do this on Shabbos. It's a private offering, but it's brought on Shabbos because it's an obligation. Minani Mili, how do we know that it pushes off Shabbos? We're going to get a few opinions right here. Amar Rav Huna says, Tufine, Tiafenana. You have to bake it when it's pretty. And if you would bake it from yesterday, then in Ashfala, then it won't be so pretty because it would start to expand. Maskevler Rav Yosef, you see, what's he saying? It's Teafenana, you bake it when it's pretty. Maybe it means no, you bake it pretty. That means that it comes out pretty. And if it would be baked from yesterday, what does inashfale mean? That it would rise or it would start?
Puff and stale.
Oh, that means stale. That means it would get stale. It would become swollen. Exposure to the air. Okay. Maskefler Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef asked the question, how do you know? That's not a good proof that you have to bake it on Shabbos, because maybe you cover it with greens, some sort of greens would preserve it, and then it won't get puffed up, won't get swollen. Okay, so our first shot here, how do you know that it's done on Shabbos? Because it says Tiafenana, which means it has to be pretty. Bei Rabbi Shmuel Tana. In the school of Rabbi Shmuel, they give another interpretation. It says Teyase afilu b'Shabbos, Teyase afilu b'Tum. It says Teyase. It says in the pasuk you should make it. Seilas al machavas b'shemen Teyase. On a fry pan, you make it, and that's coming to teach me that you do it even on Shabbos, and you do it even if everyone is impure. You still do this. Abai has another pshat. He says Amar Kra Seilas mincha tamid. You do it always. It's just like the offering that comes together with the tamid, the daily offerings, which are brought on Shabbos as well. So it's whatever the case is, we learn that it's going to override Shabbos. Rava says al machavas. It's on a fry pan. Is malamet shetuna keli. That means that you have to put it into a vessel. Yafi le'esmal, and if it was baked yesterday and it was put into a vessel already, if belina, and anything that's put into a holy vessel becomes consecrated, and if it's left overnight, then it would become puzzled by staying overnight, right? Tanya Kavasei de Rava. It's a brisa that supports Rava. It's a little bit difficult now, the Gemara. It says, Al machavas, malamet shetuna keli. It says on a fry pan. That means that you need a keli. You need a vessel. Okay. Bashemen. It says in oil or with oil. Made with oil. This means that you have to add oil, extra oil, but I don't know how much. Harini done. So I'm going to learn it like this. We have to, now the Gemara is going to go through, how much oil do you add to the Chavite Kain Gadol? Well, Nemar Kan Shemen, V'Nemar Lalan, B'Minchas Nesachim Shemen. It says, by Yas it says oil, and it says by the Minchas Nesachim, that means a the libations, the flour, water, and wine and oil that come together with the carbon. It's called minchas nesachim. So that over there also says shemen. Ma'ala hala and shleishis lugim lisarin. Just like over there, how much oil is brought together with the flour? Every isarin of flour gets 3 lug. 3 lug is a reviyas ahin. The hin is 12 lug. So a quarter of a hin would be 3 lug. So every isarin, what does it say? Reviyas ahin la'ayel. Isarin la'ayel. Reviyas ahin la'ayel. Shlisha sahin something in chatzi ahin lapar. Shlisha sahin ayel or reviyas ahin lakebes. Right. So each one, depending on how many isarin you bring, that's what you have. So you have a for an isarin you have 3 lug. So afkan shleishas lug and isarin. So we have a gzer shava. It says, well, it looks like a gzer shava. Shemen. It says here shemen. It says there shemen. So we're going to have 3 lug for the chaviti klein gadol. Oh, maybe that you're going the wrong way. Don't go that. Go a different way. Nemar kan shemen. Remember minchas nedava shemen. It says another place shemen. Where does it say shemen somewhere else? It says by the nedava. By when someone brings a regular mincha donation offering. So how much oil does he bring? 1 lug. 1 lug of oil. Not 3 lug of oil. 1 lug of oil. So just like over there it's 1 lug, so too over here it's 1 lug. So we have 2 options here how to do this. Because it says shemen and we want to learn from shemen. So near limidaima, we have to analyze which one is it more similar to. Is it more similar to the minchas nesachim, which is the added on to a regular sacrifice, the flour and oil, or is it a minchas nedava, which is a regular donation mincha, which is only 1 lug? So the Gemara says, done in tavshet mitavshet. What is tavshet? So tavshet is a rashi tevot. It goes like this. First of all, tadir. It's brought every day. So what's that similar to? That's similar to the carbon tamid, which is brought every day, which comes along with the minchas nesachim. Also ba'chayva. It also comes as an obligation. The chavitin is an obligation, similar to the carbon tamid. So the flour and oil would be more comparable of the minchas nesachim would be more comparable. Deicha Shabbos. It also pushes off Shabbos. So it's very similar to the carbon tamid. Deicha Tuma. It also pushes off Tuma. Similar to the carbon tamid. So we have 4 ways that it's comparable to the minchas nesachim. But all of these are not comparable to a minchas nedava donation offering. So maybe you got it wrong. Done in yagel mi yagel. We should compare yagel from yagel. Now, what's yagel? Yagel, it says, first of all, yachid. It's an individual. That's exactly like a donation offering. Donation is in the klein gadol is an individual. This is an individual. So we're only going to bring 1 lug. The glal atzma comes strictly on its own. It doesn't come because of another sacrifice. It comes on its own. That's a donation mincha. Yayin comes together with wine. That's does it come together with wine? It's not a company. The opposite. It doesn't have wine. Doesn't have wine. Doesn't have wine. So this also doesn't have wine. See, which is dissimilar to the minchas nesachim, which comes with wine. The chavit kengal doesn't come with wine. So it's more similar to minchas nedava, which is going to mean that it's only going to be 1 lug. And also levaina. There's no levaina on the chavit kengal. There's no levaina on the minchas. There is levaina on the minchas nedava. And there is levaina on the chavit kengal. Does it say levaina here? B'chol minchas kayin. Does it say that there's levaina on the? Okay, I guess there is levaina. Vein done in yagel mesheni yagel, and it doesn't. We don't learn from the minchas nesachim, which is not an individual or doesn't have these same things. Same. So it's equal because it's 4 and 4. Sometimes the Gemara tells me, well, this is more comparisons, right? Yeah, it's the opposite. It doesn't need levaina. What does it say in your commentary? Does the Chaviti Ken Gadol have Levina? A regular mincha doesn't have. When someone brings a regular mincha, does he put Levina on it? A regular.
Showering.
He says they require frankincense, but I'm not sure if that's exactly correct. Because by the yayin in it when it says wine, it says wine and it says they don't have wine, and it says levina. That also means they don't have levina. Okay. Okay, Rabbi Shmuel ben Eishel Rabbi Yechon ben Breka, who was saying this so far? This was just the brisa, right? Tani Kavasei Rav, it was just the brisa. Now steps in Rabbi Shmuel ben Eishel Rabbi Yechon ben Breka, he says, Seilas mincha tamid. It says, Seilas mincha tamid in the pasuk. Zekar ben Aaron of Vanav Shekriv Lashem B'Yem Mashachas Asir Seifa Seilas Mincha Tamid Machtisa Babeka Machtisa Ber. So Harelach Minchas Tamidim. It does a comparison in the pasuk to the Tamid. Ma Minchas Tamidim Shleish Lugim Lisan. Just like by the Tamid, you have 3 lug per Isaran. After Shleish Lugim Lisan, also over here we're going to have 3 lug per Isaran, 3 lug per tenth of an ephah. Okay, Reb Shimon steps in. Reb Shimon says Ribakan Shemen. There's an increase of oil here.
The anonymous part of the price that received the teaching of Rabbi Shmuel was also taught.
Okay. So Reb Shimon comes in. That's going to be later in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to go back and say Kula Rabbi Shmuel. It was all Rabbi Shmuel. The Gemara is going to say that. Reb Shimon says Ribakan Shemen Riba Minchas Kvasim Shemen. It says extra oil here, and it says also extra oil by the Minchas Nesachim. When you bring a carbon and you bring together the flour and the oil, you have extra oil there. How much oil? Mala halan shleishas lugin lisaran. Just like over there, every yisaran has shleishas lugin of oil. Afkan, every lug is 6 eggs. So it's like 18 eggs the size of oil. Afkan shleishas lugin lisaran. Also over here, it's going to be. Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe ribakan shemen and riba minchas parim ve'elim shemen. Maybe you have to compare it to the nesachim that come together, not with a lamb, a kvasim, but the minchas nesachim that come together with a bull or a ram. Now over there, even though you have a third of a hin or a half of a hin, but over there it's still not going to be, even if it's half of a hin for 3 yisaran, 6 lug for 3 yisaran is only 2 lug per yisaran. It's not 3 lug per yisaran. Maybe you only had 2 lug. Malahalan shnei lug in lisaran. Afkan shnei lug in lisaran. The Gemara says near lemidaima. Let's see what it's more comparable to. Done in mincha ba yisaran, mincha ba yisaran. Bein done mincha ba yisaran, mincha zaba shnayim shleishis yisaran. It's much more similar to the minchas kvasim, which is 3 lug per yisaran, because over there by the keves you only bring 1 yisaran. So to over here by the kain gadol you only bring 1 yisaran. You divide it in half, but it's 1 yisaran. So, and don't compare it to a mincha that's brought with two Yisrael or 3 Yisrael. Okay, that's the end of the price. The Gemara asks, Hagu for kasha. 1 second, what just happened over here? It's self-contradictory. First, you started off and say bashemen lohisif lashemen. That means that you have to add extra oil. Then you say badatani nemerkan shemen minchas davar shemen. And then you say no, you just compare it to the amount of oil that was exactly there. You're not adding extra. That's the amount that you have. Amar Abaya. So Abaya says, oh, Vahadatani Nemerkan Shemen Minchas Nedava Shemen. Lashemen, Lahisif Lashemen. Originally, when the Brisa started, It says Bashemen Lahisif Lashemen Veni De'ekama. And we started off saying that maybe it's compared to a Minchas Nesachim, maybe it's compared to a Minchas Nedava. How could it be compared to Minchas Nedava? You only have one lug. That's not Lahisif. Amar Abaye Mantana Bashemen Lahisif. Who's the one that said that first statement? That's Reb Shimon. V'ilu leinemar ka'amar. Okay. It's Reb Shimon who holds that you really need. He says really that you need 3 lug. And what he means to say, ilu leinemar ka'amar, that if we didn't say Bashemen, then I could have thought that you would compare it to a Minchas Nedava, which is only 1 lug. But now that it says it, now that it says it says Bashemen that you have to add. So we're not going to compare it to a Minchas Nedava. We're going to compare it to the Minchas Nesachim. Ubedina Manka Mahada. The Gemara says, and who responds to Reb Shimon that you can compare it to the Minchas Nedava? It says Rabbi Yishmael. That's actually Rabbi Yishmael, which later on Rabbi Yishmael says that you compare it to. No, Rabbi Yishmael doesn't say it's Minchas Nedava. No, okay, it's Rabbi Yishmael, not Rabbi Yishmael b'nei Shol Brechin Rabbi. It's Rabbi Yishmael. Rav Huna Brei Rabbi Shua Amar Kula Rabbi Yishmael b'nei Shol Rabbi Yechon Mebreki. He says that actually everything here that was said, even Bashemen, is Rabbi Yishmael b'nei Shol Rabbi Yechon Mebreki. He says that you get how is it 3 lug? You learned it from the Minchas Nesachim. Bachi Kamar. Bashemen is Laisef Lashemen. Bashemen means that you have to add oil. Dila Kvaya Shemen, because if it was just to tell me that you need any oil, then leitzarech, it wouldn't have to say it. Given the ksiv al machavas, minchas machavas damya. It already says it's on a fry pan, and if it's on a fry pan, then I already know that there's going to be oil because it's on a fry pan. I'd compare it to a minchas machavas, which already has 1 lug. So what does it mean? Bashemen with oil. It's coming to add extra oil, which means we compare it to the minchas nesachim. Ayenu lekvayel hashemen, maybe not. Maybe it's just coming to tell me that you have oil, not extra oil. Maybe I could have thought that it would have been a dry mincha, just like a mincha schayte, but someone that does an avera, and he can't afford, so he brings the other mincha. So over there it's dry. So Hadar Amar. So then Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shor says, "Tavinami l'kvayil hashemen, Teisim Medina. Let it even be that it's to establish that it has oil, and nevertheless, we'll still end up with 3 lug." Tasting Medina, and we'll learn it from, I guess, what does Medina mean? Medina must mean we learn it from the Shemen. The Don Dina, V'layasile. So we do this comparison, Shemen, do we compare it to this one or to compare it to that one? And if we don't get it, but it's Shechakra, and then we need the pasuk Selos Mincha Tamid. The Selos Mincha Tamid says that the Messiah Rabbi Shmuel Milsei, as Rabbi Shmuel concludes, that tells me that we compare it to the carbon tamid, which means the minchas nesachim, which means that we compare it to the 3 lug. Rabba Amar, Rabba says kula Reb Shimon. It's actually entirely Reb Shimon. V'ilu leinemar kamar. And Reb Shimon was saying that if it wouldn't have said Bashemen, then I could have thought that it would be only a minchas nedava. Bachi kamar. This is what it's saying. Bashemen, it says in the pasuk, Bashemen lahisif lashemen, to add oil. Because if it's only telling me that you need any oil, just a small amount, then leitzarech, then you don't need the pasuk, even the ksiv al machavas, because it already says it's on a fry pan. So I know that there's oil. K'machavas tameh, bad shlayim bashemen yeshli badin. And until it says Bashemen, then I would base it on the analogy of Shemen. Then I do a comparison, and I don't have a good comparison because I have Yogil or the other one. I could compare it to this mincha, or I can compare it to that mincha. I don't know if it's 1 lug or 3 lug. So Bashemen. So I need Bashemen to teach me that I have to add extra oil. Hadar Amar, but then we say Tavik minchas parim ve'elim. Maybe we should compare it to the parim ve'elim, which only gives me 2 lug by the mincha of the bull and the ram. Not 3 lug. Hadaramar Danin. Hadaramar Danin Mincha Ba'isaran. And then Reb Shimon would conclude where he says that it's we compare to a mincha that comes with one isarin to another mincha that comes with one isarin, which is the mincha of the kvasim, the minchas nesachim of the kvasim. Okay, we stopped right at the top of Amud Beis, which is by the Mishnah. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good day.